I'm Jim Kick with the Elkhart Bonneville Club, and tonight's discussion clinic is going to be on hanging trolley wire and catenary on your HO layout, if you are so interested. So, before I actually get into the construction of it, I was going to just mention a few railroads in the country that used electrification. I'll get it right. In the east, we had the New Haven, the Pennsylvania, Erie, Lackawanna, the Reading, the Virginian, southeast, Norfolk and Western to a point. Then out west, we had the Milwaukee Road, Great Northern, Butte, and the Continental Pacific. And two railroads that my railroad is actually, I patterned my operations after, is the Iowa Traction, which is still running to this day, and the Niagara Junction Railroad, which these are kind of close to their paint scheme and the type of locomotives they had. So anyway, if anyone's interested in those railroads and their electrification, this may help you if you want to hang some wire, something like that. Okay, so what I am going to get into is, first of all, what is catenary and what is trolley wire? Well, it's pretty simple. Trolley wire, this is your track. Real good. These are your poles here. Well, if I can hold still. Jeez. Okay. Then with single trolley, it sags from pole to pole. So you can't run real fast underneath that. Now, catenary, I'm having trouble with this pen now. Your poles are here, 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 and here. And your trolley wire or contact wire is held pretty straight this way. And then your top wire, or your messenger wire they call it, does the sag part. Then you have hangers going down to it like that. And that's a kind of a disclaimer that I forgot here, that tonight what I'm going to be showing you is strictly for pantograph operation, not for trolley pole or anything like that. Pantograph is a little easier to work with if you're building a small switching layout or something like that. But there again, you've got your messenger, your secondary messenger, and your contact wire or your trolley wire. And the trolley is, I'll show you that. That's like shooting ducks in a barrel trying to do that. That's pretty easy to do. The next thing I'll show you here is this. I made this up because this is just about all the components that I use just about anywhere on my layout. If I've got more than one or two or three tracks or yard tracks to span, I use these. These will span 3 tracks. If you want to span more than 3, you can go, let's go like that. Let's say we got 1, 2, 3 tracks like that, and you got your pole up here, and you got your pole up here, and your cross beam here. Now, if you got, let's say you want to go 4 tracks. Well, you can use this and then just take a bracket, put a bracket out here over that track to catch your wire on that track right there. If you got 5, you can put a bracket over here, and then you got 1, 2, 3, 4. Then you got 5 tracks, so forth and so on. And the thing with this stuff, it's all Sommerfeld, and the secret of this stuff is hardly any of this is HO. This is TT scale. This is N scale. These cross spans are N scale. And these are HO narrow gauge from Switzerland, from the Reichsbahn Railroad in Switzerland. because when I first started doing this, I have a Sommerfeld cattle at home, but it's all European. It's all German. They make German, French, Austrian, Italian, a lot of Netherlands, just about anything but American. And I've even called them about it, told them that this can be American, and if they changed these just a little bit, they would have American, but they didn't really care. I mean, they're selling what they sell, and they don't care. We're making what we're going to make. So that's what you want, and I've got numbers for these if you ever want. The reason I went to this is because their HO, the hangers, the wires are too far apart. On these ends here, they scale out about 6 feet apart, which is okay for American if you're modeling something real heavy like Metro in Chicago, Metro Electric, or like the Pensy or the Virginian or something like that. Yeah, you've got, and they're like 19 inches long. They're longer sections too, so you can get longer sections, a lot bigger than this. But this looks more like interurban, more like what the South Shore uses. And these I use on my straightaways, switches, yards, stuff like that. These are mostly I use for curves. You can use these on a 24 all the way down to like a 22, possibly 20-inch radius curve. You can use these on. So I use those, and I use a few other things. Okay, so that's and these are 3/32 inch brass rods that I use for my poles. I can pass these around if you want to. Anybody wants to look at them or see how they're made. There's a couple of them there. You can use 1/8 inch too. I've got this one right here is 1/8 inch. 1/8 inch looks good too. I mean, it just depends on how heavy you want it. You can. My first couple of railroads were all 1/8 inch, and then I got to looking at it one day. I thought, I wonder if I could make that look just a little smaller, and I did. So 3/32. And if you ever get into this, there's some companies out there you can buy that have plastic. You can. I was telling the guys, Daypole is one of them. They have plastic poles. Don't use them. They will not work, because if you try to put any tension on them, go around a curve through a switch or something, they'll bend on you. So this won't. It's all metal. This is just one little thing I was going to show you about these N scale cross pieces here. They come. I don't know if you can get in close enough on this, but they come with a whole bunch of little like eyelets on the top of them. And actually, before you use them, you've got to take them and just twist all those little eyelets off there. You don't have to if you don't want to, but it doesn't. It's not gonna work real good. But anyway, that's what this right here is. This is one of these. And like I said, in HO, these will span 3 tracks. I've got them on my way out in my yard. They'll span 3 tracks in HO. Okay, now let's see. And the next thing I want to cover is when you do this, you can't plan enough. Plan. If you've already got a existing layout, which is okay, you can do it there too. It doesn't really matter. But you gotta plan what you're doing. You gotta figure out where your poles are going to go, which ways your wires are going, what you're doing. It's going to help you a lot if you get it kind of figured out. And one of the biggest questions I get when people see my layout, they say, "Well, what do you do when you come to a switch?" That's why I made this thing the way it is. It's got one switch on it. There's what you do when you come to a switch. You just cross the wires. The one wire goes off to, it's called a dead end. So basically, I'm not going to draw the rails, but okay, you get your wire coming down like this, and you've got your other wire coming down like this, and you're going to go over like that. You're going to have a pole here that's going to stop there. You're going to have a pole here with some kind of a pull-off going over here. I can't get right here, come on. Anyway, and then this will just go right on down the line. If you've got a pole, like that. Or you've got, like I've got it, you can have a T-pole in the middle where you've got a pole like this. And you've got one there and one there. Or you can do 2 poles with a bracket over here like this. That's how you do it. And that's how you do a switch. Now, if you're going to do a yard, let's see, you've got a ladder here and you've got more tracks. Well, you could bring all these tracks down. You could bring a wire. Let's see, what are we doing here? Okay. Yeah, you could have another pole here with another wire right next to that one. Run that right on out. Let's see, you got another track out here. And then you're gonna have to put a pull off right there. Dead end pole there, and whatever you want, these holding those wires up. So your tracks are gonna come down. Your ladders are gonna be like that. And some of the railroads used for these pull-offs, they use cables like, you can barely see it, but I've got right here. And if you really want to get fancy with it, some of them, the shore around East Chicago, they actually use a chain here, which is kind of tricky in HO, but look pretty neat. But they actually use a chain, some of them. Okay. Now we will get, that's like switches, ladder tracks, things like that. I'll get into another thing is, of course, if you're doing straightaway, which I can't draw a straight line tonight, but whatever. If you're just doing a straightaway, come on here. You know, you can just put your poles, and your brackets if you want. Now, if you're doing a curve, there's 2 ways of doing a curve. You always want to pull your wire off in a curve to the outside of the curve, because that's where the strain's going to be on it, like that. But that is not always the case. And here again, I will refer back to the South Shore again. They have quite a few curves, and I've got one made this way on my layout. I make stuff on my layout just to make it. I don't really need to, but I just like the way it looks. They have some curves. They don't anymore because they're new wires. I'm also talking about the old wire now, which they don't have anymore. But they do have some where the poles are on the inside of the curves. And what they've done is they use the poles and the brackets just to hold the weight of the wire. Those don't pull out on they just hold the wire up. Then they put on each one on the other side of it, out here in the cornfield somewhere, they'll put a telephone pole, and they'll put either the chain or a cable, and that will go over here like that is what they'll do. And then if the curve's too tight, they'll put another pole right here. And so you have something like that. Now from a cross section of that, you're going to have, this is your bench work. You've got your track here. You're going to have your pole up here. And you're going to have a bracket on the pole like that. And all that's doing is supporting the top wire, the messenger wire. Now this right here is over here, and it's going to have a wire going over here, and it's going to have one going up to the messenger and down to the trolley wire like that. And actually, on the prototype, you're going to have a cable here and then a down guy like that. I don't do that because this is enough stuff in the way of your hand where if you got a layout going, I just don't want all that stuff just, I mean, it looks good, it looks nice, it's the way it should be, but it's just easier for getting cars on and off the track. But that's, now they did have a curve in Leidick, Indiana, if you know where Leidick is, and it's not that one anymore because of the new wire, but they did have a curve, and I don't know how they did it, but the poles were on the inside of the curve. There was no pull off to the outside, but it was a real broad curve. I mean, it was almost straight. It was just, you just barely tell the track curved, and they had the poles on the inside, and that's all they had. They didn't have any pull offs. They didn't have anything. So I'm covering a lot pretty fast here. Now let's get down to getting it on the layout. Well, first of all, you've got to make some poles, which if you buy them, that's why I usually tell people on my layout that they say, well, how do you do this? I say, well, most of it I just buy and put together. I know I had them laying here somewhere. Oh, here it is. Okay, I've got a jig made right here. This little, like it's got some nails in it. Cut the heads off the nails on that part. But this is a summer felt. This is how they come anyway. And you can bend this little bracket, this little up like that. Then you clean this off, of course, and you slide that on there like that. And then this is some close stuff here, Jim. There we go. You can pop that like that and make sure that I take a 90-degree ruler and make sure these things come out 90 degrees. And then you just put this put that over that like that right there. And then solder it there, and then you can, once that's soldered, you take this, just flip it over, solder the other side, then solder your brace right to that, and then you have one of these. That's how you get to that point. And there's one other thing that's kind of my little invention here. I haven't got it patented, but you see these little Y-shaped things on these here and here and here. And you're probably asking yourself, what are those for? Oh, well, anyway, that's my little invention right there. And that is a piece of K&S 020 wire. And you just take it and you put a bend in it. I'll try to do both. You bend it like that. Leave one side a little longer than the other when you cut it off so you can bend it out. But take your pliers and bend that thing right on down as tight as you can get it. Bend that almost, if you can get that flat, well, you can't really see that, but you bend that until that's all there is of it. Then you grab it with pliers and you put a 90-degree bend in it. And then you cut it off. All right. After you get it cut off, you take, let's say your pole is going to look like that. You take the little bottom piece with the 90-degree bend on it. I don't know if you can see that or not. Like I said, that white background, you can see better. And you flux that up, clean this up. And you can do this after these are already, even on the layout, it's almost easier. You get them down where you don't want them on the layout, hold that down with your pliers, and solder that right on there, right like that. Then take a bead, the smallest bead you can get, which I have some. I can bring it with me though. But you slide it over that like that, and then you open those up like that with the bead on there. Okay. Now skipping right along here, we got that on there. Now the other problem I had with the summer felt stuff was, like I said, it doesn't look American. Well, here's what you do that really makes these things kind of, as they say on the home shows, it makes them pop. You know, I don't know. But here's how you do it. You take that like that. Now you get both your messenger wires, which that's your top wire, in there. Pull them down. I call this a bread tie. You just pull those down over it like that. So you've got something similar to that. Cut that off. Man, these things are dull. Hey, I think I could spring for a new set of rail cutters. If I only used them for rail, they'd probably still be all right. But, you guys probably do the same thing. I use them for everything but. Now, that takes care of your top wire. Now, I'm going to do it on one of these, and I'm going to draw it up here too. But if you've got, now this is how that is right there. So you take your cutters also, and you cut that bracket off, and you cut this off up to where you've got the wire side onto it. And then you pull this down a little bit like that. And of course this one's got the top, this doesn't have it on. But we'll do that with this one here now. We'll cut this off. Just be really careful whenever if you're doing this. Another thing about doing this is it's not really good to have a motor tool cutoff wheel anywhere near this stuff. Because one slip and boom, you'll hear something go ping. You cut that one off, and we'll cut this off right here. If I get it. There we go. And then, well, I just said don't get a motor tool near it, but a motor tool does a pretty good job of cut this off back here as far as you can get it. And then just pull that down to where you want it. This little gauge, you can make it out of a block. I've got this with 2 pieces of styrene. That way I know if my wires start to touch that, I'm too far one way or another, the pans aren't going to catch it. So you can buy this stuff too. I mean, you can, but I mean, they're just plastic pieces, but just put that in there, and I'm way low on that one. But that's all right. That's okay. Yeah, that's how you get that one. And I'll show you this one here too. Now I only got 1 messenger wire in this. I would usually have 2, but you just pull those down like that, cut them off. All right. Cut those off. Not even time-wise. Cut that. And cut that. This one's a little short. So actually I didn't have a soldering gun, but I should have heated that up and slid that wire out just a little. That's a little on the short side, but and then so that's how you hook your wire up. And now the wire, what you do, the other advantage of having these things on here, don't cut any of it off till you get done doing it, because then what you do is, and I've gotten ahead of myself a couple of times with this stuff. Sight down this wire, because one piece is flat, that's the one you want to run on, and the other is curved. You can't really tell it when you're looking at it like this, but if you sight down it, you can see. So be sure you get the flat one. And what you do, you get some very small little, those pliers like at a craft store or something, where you can put a nice little put a nice little hook right in the end of that wire like that. And then you can just, it's very simple because you can just measure it out. And I've got a measuring stick here for drilling the holes for the poles, but I usually have to measure it because now these I had to shorten them up just to make this display. But, and then this just hooks onto that like that. The other one hooks next to it and you solder it. And that's all you gotta do. Now, one thing with this that I'll say is don't ever solder this top wire. Leave it float, leave it just do its thing. You put all your tension and everything on the bottom wire, because if you don't, you can't get both of these the same, and it'll start doing all kinds of funny stuff if you try doing that. So just solder your bottom wire on. And a real neat idea for a dead end that I put those engines on. I can't see what I'm doing. Great. Wait, did I get it? I got it. Wow, okay. Say this wire is coming up and you're going to end it right here. Well, okay then. You get a piece of 1/8 inch dowel. This is a fish leader. Put that through there like that. I've got the hook on the bottom of this. There again, even if the dead ends, don't fasten down the top wire. The top wire will go through and, yeah, sure it will. We'll get this. You can cut the hangers out on these things too, if you need to. Do anything you want. Like I said, just use this stuff and trim it up. Do whatever you have to with it. A little pieces of wire all over the place. Okay. On your dead ends, you don't have to be real. Now you're also going to want to put a couple of beads on here to look like insulators. I didn't bring any with me. Right like that. And then you're going to get a lot shorter leader. I bought a 1 foot long leader. Then you can put a weight on the end of this underneath the layout, and that weight can be pulling on that wire all the time. So, and your top wire doesn't matter. You just put it through another hole and just let it float. There again, let it float. And then I give it a couple of weeks floating like that. And then if you've got it, get it so you got about 1/4 inch out from the pole, then you can take your cutters and just cut it off flush and it'll be fine. That's a really neat way of doing that. You can either do it right to the wire or you can do it to a pole if you've got enough leeway. This weight isn't really heavy enough, but anyway. What else was I going to get into here? Well, yeah, every railroad, and you've also got to decide whether you going to make, if you're going to model a Pensy, you're going to be using H-column and brass H-column and I-beams. You're not going to be using poles. So do you want a railroad that's wooden poles or do you want metal poles? I don't know. And another thing, okay, these gotta go. I gotta show you here. Another thing is when you get everything planned out, figure out where you're gonna put everything. You're gonna mount these things, or I do anyway, in wood blocks like that underneath the layout. So if you've already got an existing layout, you're gonna have to cut up some. These are just furring strips. Just cut up some blocks, some furring strips. Take some carpenter's glue them up there, and take a piece of masking tape, put across them, just hold them up there till they dry. Now what I do, some guys, you can really get into this. You can thread the poles, put washers and nuts on them, hold them down. I don't do that. I got this from a guy named I don't know if any of you guys ever heard of a guy named Bob Hagee. He's from St. Louis. He had the Crooked Mountain lines was his railroad. He was a fine scale modeler, and he scratch built all the overhead. And that's how I got kind of getting into it. He was kind of my mentor, you might say. On these dead ends, what he used, of course, he was a no gauge, but and you can use them, but you go to a hardware and get some. He used coil springs on his. He just put a coil spring around that thing, hooked the wire into the spring, and then pulled on it till the spring gave just a little bit. So you can do that too. Well, a few little details on them, like you can see, I've got these little wooden support poles up against my poles. I got that from the Milwaukee Road. Now I don't know how they use those or what they're good for, but their poles have got that on there. I just like the way it looked, so I pretty much do that with all mine. Another thing too, if you want to get detail ideas, is to go to some of the museums in the area. Like there's East Troy, Wisconsin. They've got a lot of old South Shore equipment that they do operate. They operate a dinner train up there on to the cars. The Illinois Railway Museum is excellent. That's an excellent place to go to. There's the Fox River Trolley Museum, which is at South Elgin, Illinois, along the Fox River. They're all electric trolley stuff. There's the Iowa Traction out in Mason City, Iowa, that's still, hopefully they're still in operation. And that's really about it that I can think of about museums anyway. And pretty much that's how you do it. You just get it figured out where you're gonna put the poles, how you want to do it. Like I say, there's other ways of like even if you got like that. I've got names for stuff, I guess. I call this the ricochet. This is another thing you can do if you got a switch or a passing siding. Bring it here and then bring it over this way. Bring it off here. Put your dead end pole over here. Put a pull-off pole there to it, and then just all your other stuff is just right on down the track. I like using T-poles because you only got to use one pole and you get the two tracks. The modern way of doing it is to have, if you got two tracks, is to have one this way. I hope I'm not going over time-wise here. One going that way, like that. The reason they do that is so both of these tracks are independent of each other. If they have a wreck or something here, something takes one of these poles down, busts it off, messes the wire up and everything here, hopefully they can still use this track. But the big thing with between pantographs and trolley poles, if you're going to use a trolley pole, this wire is going to have to come here, and you're going to have to have you're going to have a wire frog right here. In other words, this wire can't cross this one and come over here like it would for a pantograph. You've got to have a trolley frog there. And then the problem with that is, and the prototype used to have a lot of trouble with them, and you do on models, so you have trouble with the pole coming off the wire all the time. Plus, if you're switching, a pole is only a one-directional thing. So if you're going one way, pole's got to go this way. Now if you're switching, you got to come back the other way. You got to put that pole down, raise the other pole up, bring it back, hope it stays on the wire, yada yada yada. But and sure, their new stuff now also, they've got weights on the ends of the wires too, because when I was a dispatcher, just about every time it got to around zero, we'd have a wire break somewhere. And what they've got now is they've got these big concrete discs that they stack, and it pulls the wires, And then if it gets cold, the wire can contract up, pulls those up. If it gets hot, pulls them back down. So, and you can do that with a model by this type of deal. If you put one of these on both ends of it, then you've got both ends of that wire that you've just put up has got it can go one way or the other. And just another quick quick punch here for well, actually two punches, for one for summer felt and one for where I get this stuff. These are summer felt pantographs too. They make a whole line of pantographs, and these are really nice. I get all my stuff from, there's a place called Eurorail Hobbies and More in Canada, and they're in British Columbia, Canada, and that's where I get all my stuff, because most of the American places that claim they have the stuff, I've called them, I've worked with them before, they don't have any of it, and this TT stuff they don't even know about. So there you go. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. I like doing it more than I do track work. I mean, track work is fun, but I like doing this stuff, planning it out. Sometimes it works the way I want it to, sometimes it doesn't. That right there is just about all the hook you need. And if you need one longer, if you need something longer than this, you can splice into that by just putting another hooking into there, soldering them together. The bottom will take care of itself. The pans will usually run across them. You can't, I mean, you can make them maybe 3 or 4 inches longer, but other than that, you really can't. These are like 13.5 inches. You can get 13.5 inches between the poles. That's what I use this for. And here again, don't do as I do as I say, because you can see I'm a little bit off there. But anyway, that's pretty much it.
Is it? Are you running DCC through that, or
no? It's all my lab's just DC.
It's a DC.
Just straight DC. I common on one rail, and then I can run one train off a diesel or one of these that I don't have set up for the overhead. I can run them off the 2 rail. This I can run off the overhead. I've got another pair of box cads that are made for the overhead too. I can run them too. So. And I'm Jim Kidd from the Elkhart Mile Railroad Club, and thank you for being here and paying attention to my clinic. Thank you.